Yo, what's up, all you burner stones and potheads? This is Weedman 420 with the Weedman 420 Chronicles. How are all you vipers doing out there? Mrs. Weedman.
Mr. Weedman.
How the hell are you?
Amazing.
Hey, all you vipers out there in the world. Hopefully you're smoking some big fat doinks while you're listening to the show. Mrs. Weedman and I are about to get normal with some new flower that was given to me by a friend of mine from Dutchess Cannabis. This is Dutchess flower. It's called Milf and Cookies. So a little description of this strain, and I'd like to thank my friend Ren, one of the buyers for Dutchess, and probably a decision maker and a badass, just totally badass human being. So I'd like to thank Ren and the Dutchess team and Dutchess Flower for throwing this to the cause. So Milf and Cookies. Turn on the fireplace, put your feet up, and sink into this perfectly balanced cross of Skittles, with a Z, Skittles, and OG Kush. Crossing these strains provides a euphoric yet relaxing high that's perfect for winding down at the end of the day. With flavors of sweet, creamy Kush complemented by earthy and grassy aromas. You're in for a real treat, Mrs. Weedman. The lineage is Skittles and OG Kush. It's an indica-leaning hybrid, around 24%. The effects are euphoric, relaxing, uplifting. The terpenes are limonene, beta-carotene, and alpha-humulene. And that is Milf and Cookies by Dutchess Flower. And you can see the bag over there on our nice little smoke set over there. And check them out. You can get them at Dutchess Cannabis dispensaries. They're located in Linwood, Markham, Oak Park, and I believe North Riverside, and probably plenty more coming. They are a powerhouse, and I think they're also in Massachusetts too. So I'd like to thank Dutchess Cannabis for throwing to the cause, for the sponsoring the show with some fine flower. Appreciate it.
I'm ready to be elevated.
Well, before we get really elevated, tell us a little bit about 8decades.com, Mrs. Weedman.
Yes. 8decades.com is our cannabis lifestyle brand. You can find us at EIGHT-decades.com. There you will find all of our goods that we have created, all of your accessories that should last a lifetime and look great doing a good job. We also have hemp clothing, and we have some more information about me and Mr. Weedman, what we do, why we do what we do, and links to the podcast and swag for the podcast. So check us out, 8decades.com.
Hell yeah. Check out 8decades.com. We appreciate everybody who throws to the cause, and as we always say, you support 8decades.com, you support the show so we can keep on doing the show every week for you. I'm good for the minute. So I went to Flower Expo today, and you were sadly missed. Not only just by me, but a lot of other people. I'd like to thank Kai for throwing us a press badge, and I got to walk around today and see tons of people that I knew and some new people I got to meet, and I want to say it was a very nice setup. It was over at the Garrity, I believe it's called, over on Hoyne on the south side of Chicago, and very nice venue. Really nice. Big outdoor, compared to the one we went to in March, which was great also, but a little smaller. This venue had a very big outdoor area where there was food trucks, a lot of food trucks, and you had some vendors out there. I got to see our friend Briggs from Split Society. Thanks, Briggs. And out there, and then inside, very nice inside venue, cool lighting and the atmosphere, banging DJ. And but there's all the booths that were there, all the vendors, all the cultivators and buyers and people in the industry. So Tuesday was that. It was more of a buyer, meet vendors, suppliers, and then you meet buyers walking around. So I got to see a lot of people that we knew from doing events with in the past, some just a really cool atmosphere. And then on Wednesday will be the bud tender. I would call it the bud tender bash, because I'm sure there'll be 1,000 of them showing up, having a great old time. So, and have their day, which they deserve, because the bud tenders are the most important people in the industry, as I've always said. And but it was a very good event. I loved every second of it. It was nice. It was mellow. It was chill. A lot of smoking weed outside. A lot of good people. We got a lot of cool products too. We have now, for the next 4 episodes, we got a lot of different brands to try. Redemption Botanicals threw us some flower. Ms. Grass threw us some flower. I like to throw a shout out to Tyler Peppergreen from Kana. We're not going to be eating those during the show, but we'll eat them for nighttime. I appreciate you, Tyler. You're my man. And then who else? Our friend Carlos Kanja gave us some weed too to smoke. And yeah, I'm looking forward to trying all these different strains. I think I might be missing one. Oh, Elevate gave us some weed too. So we have four different cultivators to try, craft cultivators to try here. I'm looking forward to trying all their brands, and I've seen some of them. Elevate, I think, just launched here in Illinois, but Miss Grass has been around as long as I've been in the industry, and I really like their marketing and what they do. They're really cool. Is a women-owned cultivator, and just proud to see them keep on rocking and rolling. Our friend Carlos, what is the other the cocktail? I can't remember off the top of my head.
Up Elevated?
Up Elevated Cocktails, yep. And he's working for them. And we have a new cultivator. I can't wait to try them. And then who else? Our favorite, Redemption. Thanks, Chad and Bo and Marshall for throwing to the cause. We'll get that next up. Smoking some doinks from them, too. So I'm super stoked. Got to meet Jim Belushi today.
Yeah.
Kind of cool, and talked to him for a little bit, and had a nice conversation. And he made me laugh on a couple things he said. I won't repeat it on the show just yet. Hopefully, we'll have him on the show one day. We talked to Chris, somebody that works with him, Cannabev, who we know really well too. And so we talked, and maybe have him come on the show one day. It'd be great. It'd be fun to have Jim Belushi. I like to pick his brain. But it was good. All in all, great time. Saw a lot of friends, a lot of community. It was a very well-run event, and thanks, Flower Expo, for having us. Again, looking forward to the next one. So, sharks. Dun it, dun it, dun it, dun it, dun it, dun it, dun it. Not great whites, though. You ever look at a fucking hammerhead shark, and you're like, why the hell are they, why is their
Head
face
like
out
a
the
hammer?
hair and their eyes are
All the
like on
way
the
out, yeah.
side? Like, how do you live life like that or swim to the ocean like that? And so I was...
Yeah, it's like you gotta turn your head this much to see. I can't see you. I can't see you.
So, hammerhead sharks, I was just like wondering, why do hammerhead sharks, you ever wonder why they have the hammer? And why
They whack with it.
Yeah,
when
kind of.
When
But-
they attack.
Yeah, but there's some other things too. So hammerhead sharks look like a fish that had its face flattened by a cartoon mallet and decided to just roll with it.
Yeah.
They're freaks of nature. Haters might say, and don't be a hater on the hammerhead, but these marine marvels are actually masters of adaptation, equipped with bizarre yet brilliant features that make them somewhat of ocean's most efficient predators. Now, I've seen 12, 14, 15-foot hammerheads. In Florida, there's tons of them. And so the hammerhead sharks are a group of shark comprised of numerous species. They come in all shapes and sizes. The largest species, hammerhead, average length around 13 feet, while the smallest, the bonehead shark, reaches about 5 feet. Despite their varying sizes, all of the species are defined by a relatively small mouth and, of course, their elongated hammer-like heads. Their hammer-shaped heads are known to give the sharks several advantages. First of all, it provides them with extremely wide range of vision.
Out that way.
Yeah. They're seeing
They
left
can't see
to right.
Can they
north,
see a head?
They're seeing left to right, not north to south.
Like you couldn't see if someone touched you on the nose.
So first of all, it provides them an extremely wide range of vision, perfectly suited for hunting squid and stingrays in open waters. In a study in 2009, that they found that two species of hammerhead sharks, the winghead shark and the scalloped hammerhead, had binocular fields of vision of 48 degrees and 34 degrees. That's crazy. Respectively, this was significantly wider than the narrow-faced cousins, the lemon sharks and the black-nosed sharks, whose fields of vision are only about 15 degrees. So it's easy to imagine how this wider visual range could give them the edge when it comes to hunting, evasion, survival in the danger-ridden ocean. So the electroception might also have something to do with the shark's peculiarly shaped skull. Many fish, including sharks, possess an organ called the ampullae of Lorenzini. Hey. A network of jelly-filled sensory pores that detect faint electrical fields generated by prey and potential enemies. These organs are typically concentrated in the snout and around the eyes. So a broad and hammerhead-like head could allow for wider distribution of sensors, improving the shark's ability to pinpoint their hidden prey. Finally, the hammer shape may play the role in the shark's agility. Research has shown that the hammerhead does not provide lift like wings on an airplane. In fact, it adds a lot of drag. But the unusual structure allows the sharks to make sharp, jerky turns. The burst of maneuverability can give them a split-second edge when ambushing prey. Like you said. Hammerhead sharks might look strange, but they are not trailblazing pioneers with the head accessory. The hammerhead was evolved over time and again throughout the natural world, from hammerhead worms to extinct creatures like the Diplopteris. It's a clear example of convergent evolution, Mrs. Weedman, which shows how similar ecological pressures can lead to remarkable similar adaptations, even the lineage of animals that are very distinctly related. So, if you ever wondered out there about hammerhead sharks and why their fucking head is out to here, a lot of different reasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
You ever see one in the wild?
No, but I saw one on my grandpa's wall.
Oh, yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
They had like a saw shark.
Yep. Yeah.
Is that
Yeah, the big long nose shark. Yeah.
And that was
That thing's huge.
yeah, that was
Those
in
things
the
are
office, and that was
monsters.
like 12 feet long.
Right.
And then there was a stingray and a sailfish.
Sailfish was dope.
And a hammerhead.
And a bonefish.
And a bonefish.
And a tarpon.
Yeah, tarpon.
Yeah, your grandfather was a great fisherman.
My grandpa liked to
Yeah,
fish.
he was huge. And I saw...
But yes, I saw like close up.
Yes,
I mean,
but I've seen a small one, the bonehead ones, the real small ones you see in the flats.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I've seen one when I went flat fishing one time when we lived in the Keys. I saw a small one. Yeah.
I've seen small sharks.
Yeah, I've seen plenty of those. We had nurse sharks under your pier.
Yeah.
We had plenty of those. Those were great.
Mm-hmm.
They're friendly.
Pretty.
Mm-hmm. So that's the hammerhead shark. Ms. Weedman.
The hammerhead.
The hammerhead. Hammerhead.
Hey, hammerhead.
You ready to get the show started?
I'm ready.
Let's do this. I was sitting with a friend of mine having some lunch at one of my favorite places in Berwyn, Cigars and Stripes. And he, big cannabis user, has been forever, smoked many a joints with them. And but is in beer sales. And we were talking about the THC drinks, the rage right now, all the rage right now in THC drinks. He's like, oh man, it's just fucking crazy. He goes, I don't understand it. I don't understand the difference. I don't understand what hemp Delta 9 is. What is Delta 9 THC? Is THC Delta 9? What are all these other I said, you're a smoker. You've been smoking weed for a long time. This is all new to you because all you did, you enjoyed weed. You just wanted good weed to smoke. Maybe you got a name, maybe you didn't. You didn't care about THC. You probably didn't even know what THC percentage was when you first started smoking weed. You probably didn't know what a cannabinoid was or whatever. And he's like, yeah, I don't. I just love weed. I said, I know. I've seen you smoke every day. And so I told him I would find some we've talked about this plenty of times, but he's hasn't really listened to the show much. So this will help him understand what this is. And then your next article kind of goes into it a little bit more. So it's a back-to-back article that I found from my friend Dank, and that is his name, Dank. And hopefully I'll send him this episode and he listens and he learns a little bit. And hopefully you'll get some of you, this is a refresh. Some of you might know all this. Some of you might just be listening to the show and going, man, I didn't fucking know any of that. So hopefully this helps. Let's dive into a question that confused a lot of folks. What's the difference between cannabis, marijuana, and hemp? Let's roll it up. Cannabis equals the umbrella. First up, cannabis is the broadest term. Think of it like saying fruit, meaning apples, bananas, grapes, all kinds of fruit. Cannabis covers hemp, marijuana, all the alike. Botanically, cannabis includes cannabis sativa, cannabis indica, cannabis rudialis, and many hybrids in between. Inside these plants are more than 100 cannabinoids. THC, the part that gets you high, CBD, the more chill, therapeutic vibes, and the others. CBG, the mother. CBC, CBN, THCA, and many other more. Each cannabinoid has its own personality, its own effects. Hemp, now, equals industrial, low THC, big potential. So, hemp, by U.S. federal law, hemp is cannabis that has 0.3% THC or less by dry weight. The tiny amount means hemp doesn't get you overly high. But hemp ain't boring. It's been used for centuries. Rope, paper, textiles, building materials like hempcrete, bioplastics, and the seeds. Nutrient-rich, the oils, full of benefits. Because of the 2018 Farm Bill, hemp got legalized under regulation in the U.S., opening up tons of opportunity from wellness products to CBD-infused stuff to THC drinks and so much more. So, marijuana, though, equals the psychoactive side, more THC. Then there's marijuana. When cannabis plants have more than 0.3% THC, they fall into this category. That level of THC brings psychoactive effects, the high. Marijuana, or more precisely, TH-rich cannabis, is what's used recreationally, medically, and etc. Also worth noting, marijuana is a term with historical baggage, sometimes used negatively or politically. Some folks prefer THC-rich cannabis instead. So, it's used in many ways, Mrs. Weedman. Smoking, vaping, edibles, topicals, applications, and many more. For medical purposes, marijuana helps folks dealing with chronic pain, epilepsy, PTSD, nausea, saying what chemo brings, and more. So there's some differences at a glance here. Let me run a quick side-by-side before we move on. Because, Mrs. Weedman, clarity is power.
Sure is.
So we're going to start with the feature, and then hemp, and then marijuana. So THC content is a feature. 0.3% dry weight is hemp. Less than 0.3%. With marijuana, greater than 0.3% is the feature. Psychoactive effects. Hemp, no, not overt. Marijuana, yes, and can be a little strong sometimes too. Feature, legal status, federal in the U.S., okay? Hemp is legal if regulated. Marijuana, federally illegal, some states legal. The feature is primary uses. Hemp, industrial, wellness, nutrition. Marijuana, recreational, and medical. So, hemp, THC, THCA, and business development. We've seen a lot of business development over the years with hemp. Right, Ms. Weedman?
Mm-hmm.
When hemp first launched in 2018, people were just using it for textiles and stuff like that. You were starting to see clothing, and you were starting to see different things. Then all of a sudden, we saw CBD. We started seeing CBD tinctures, CBD drinks, the CBD drink craze for a good 3 or 4 years strong, and then all the tinctures and all the different topicals, hair products, skincare, the works, right? And it was a good thing. People were making money on it. They took a plant that was basically banned for a very long time and figured out how they can use it to make profit, to make a living off of, and to use it to give good products to consumers like us, right? So I believe in business development, not loopholes. I believe in business development. There's no such thing as a loophole.
Oh, yeah, there is.
I'm just kidding. But I do believe you can take that loophole and turn it into what? BD, business development. So here's the twist. Some hemp products are showing up intoxicating. How's that happen if hemp must have less than 0.3% THC? So here goes. Hemp-derived Delta-9 THC beverages and edibles are making waves because of how the law defines THC content. Quotes, by dry weight. Producers can keep the THC portion small, weigh in other added ingredients, and still stay under the legal limit. THC flower is another tricky one. Raw cannabis produces THCA, which isn't psychoactive until it's heated or decarbed or decarboxylated. Some hemp flower has very little THC, but high THCA. And once it's smoked or heated, people feel it. So it's technically legal under some interpretations, even though it acts like marijuana when used that way. Does that make sense?
Probably not to everybody.
Do I need to read it again?
Nope.
Okay.
Because I'll be continuing.
There it is. So there's a debate, of course. Regulators are scratching their heads about what it is should be allowed. Some states are pushing back, saying some of these hemp-based products are skirted laws. Looking ahead, stigma, laws, education. Here's where I want you all to pay attention. Ready, Mrs. Weedman? Pay attention.
I'm ready. Paying attention.
Federal rescheduling of cannabis might change how things are classified, taxed, regulated. More clarity is coming, but also more complexity. Education matters. If you're consuming, creating, or investing, knowing these nuances helps you avoid legal issues, get what you expect, and push back on stigma. As public acceptance grows, these definitions, plus culture, understandings are hugely important. We got to know our shit. So some thoughts here. So there you have it. Cannabis is the umbrella, the whole family. Hemp equals low THC, non-psychoactive, mostly industrial and wellness uses. Marijuana equals high THC, psychoactive, used recreationally and medicinally. But then hemp with delta 9, THCA, and creative interpretations of dry weight are turning some lines fuzzy. So here's some tips, tricks. Ready? When someone uses weed, marijuana, cannabis, or hemp, don't just assume you know what they mean. Ask how much THC, what form, how they're using it. That clarity keeps everything smoother, legally, experimentally, and culturally. Now, Mrs. Weedman is going to go into a little bit more of what cannabis chemotypes are and a guide to hemp's 5 categories. Now, understand this. This is going to be a little technical. It's going to be a little scientific. So pay attention. There's a lot in this article that could blow right past you, right? Even Mrs. Weedman was reading this going, ooh, it has got some science.
Yeah, some things just don't translate well to be read out loud.
Yes.
So I tried to make this a little bit more understandable, cutting out anything that was just kind of redundant, or I just did some editing. So hopefully,
this is by High Times.
Yeah.
We appreciate them. The last article was by Green State. We appreciate them for trying to get clarity when it comes to all these different categories of cannabis.
Here's a thing that I kind of a visual that I give people when people are confused between hemp and cannabis. Like, it's all the same thing, isn't it? Well, yeah. Think about tomatoes. It's very relatable. Everybody knows a tomato. Everyone knows a tomato seed.
But do they know a tomato?
You say tomato. I say tomato. So think about tomatoes. And think about the variety of tomatoes. You could have a beefsteak tomato. You can have a heirloom tomato. You could have a cherry tomato. You could have a
Roma
tomato. Okay, so and then like the Campari tomatoes, which are particularly good, and those little jewel, like the little sweet babies. So you know, there's all these different tomatoes. They all relatively grow the same way. The seeds pretty similar, but the outcome has a variety of differences.
Yep.
Okay? So that's really it. That's all it is. There's a marijuana plant, and the marijuana plant has flowers. It blooms into a flower. The flower on a marijuana plant, if you consume it, will give you a psychotropic effect. It's going to give you an entourage effect of all of these things that will happen, but you will get a head high. You will get high, okay? Now you have a hemp plant. It's just a different variety of the same plant. The hemp plant is also going to flower, and those flowers could also be consumed if you really wanted to. But those flowers, when you consume them, are not going to give you a head high, but they will give you all of the other effects that cannabis might give you. Just no head high. Same plant, just a different variety. That's really it. And so by law, when the 2018 Farm Bill came about, the Hemp Farm Bill, they reinstated that you can farm hemp. You have to have a license to do so, but that hemp can have THCA, which is the same thing that grows on, here's more confusion, THCA is the flower on both the marijuana and the hemp plant, because the only way to get THC is by heating. You have to conduct heat or friction to the flower to kind of have this chemical reaction that creates THC. So, same plants, different varieties, same flowers, different outcome, different intensities of THCA or THC once it's heated. That's it. So the 2018 Farm Bill said you can grow hemp, but that hemp, when it is growing, cannot be higher than a 0.3% THC. And then they gave licenses for medical dispensaries and, the cultivators, right? Cultivators for medical and cultivators for recreational cannabis. And they're using the marijuana plant, and that THC has no limit. I mean, there's a limit, but you're growing the flower for the psychotropic effect. Over here, you're growing the plant for a wellness effect, really, right?
Yeah.
So that's it. So now, moving on, we're going to talk about chemotypes. There are 5 different categories of hemp. Now we're just talking about the hemp plant. So the hemp plant with the lower level THCA that converts to THC once it's heated, okay? I don't mean to be like oversimplifying or making it seem like I'm like teacher or
It
Karen.
took you a very long time.
It's very hard to explain, and I feel like I finally have put the pieces together to make sense of it.
We've read enough articles in 6 years about this to where Mrs. Weedman now.
Well, it gets confusing because when people talk about it, they throw the words around so loosely. And then you talk about the delta 8, 9, 10, all the deltas, then that gets confusing too. Okay. We won't go there right now.
No. We've talked about it plenty of times on the show.
Yeah. So right now we're talking about chemotypes from hemp. So, and again, I'm not trying to act like I know so much.
We're not experts.
I'm not an
We've
expert.
said it so many times.
I'm sure there's a bunch of people that could even correct what I've said.
Yeah.
But I hope that at a very simple, kind of general, basic level, that helps put an understanding out there for some people.
Cool.
Okay. Hemp is not what it used to be. Once dismissed as rope and rags, the hemp plant is now being redefined not just by its industrial potential, but by its cannabinoid chemistry. To truly understand hemp and how it fits into modern cannabis science, we need to talk about chemotypes. A chemotype refers to the plant's chemical profile, particularly the dominant cannabinoids it expresses. In cannabis, chemotypes are categorized into 5 primary groups. These classifications help breeders, scientists, and regulators differentiate between types of cannabis, including hemp, based on the ratio of cannabinoids like THC, CBD, and emerging compounds such as CBG. So, let's start with THC versus THCA. Before exploring chemotypes, it's essential to understand the legal and biochemical distinction between THC and THCA. THC, also called delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol, is the active intoxicating compound regulated under U.S. law. THCA, tetrahydrocannabinolic acid, is its acidic precursor. It is the non-psychoactive native form, and it must be decarboxylated or heated to convert it into active THC. Under the 2018 Farm Bill, the legal definition of hemp is based on the delta-9 THC content alone, specifically being less than 0.3% THC by dry weight. The law does not currently restrict THCA, even though it converts to THC when smoked, vaporized, or heated. As a result, cultivars that express high levels of THC but remain under 0.3% delta-9 THC are considered federally compliant hemp under the 2018 Farm Bill, though enforcement and definitions vary by state. So this is what you're hearing, all these hemp debates that are going on in different states over the laws and legalities of selling hemp products.
So much right now.
That's where this is coming into play. Is it too much THC? Is it, what is it? So let's move on to the biochemistry of chemotypes. At the biochemical level, all cannabinoid diversity begins with cannabigerolic acid, or CBGA.
The mother.
Often called the mother cannabinoid. CBGA is the central precursor molecule that can be transformed by different enzymes into 3 major acidic cannabinoids. THCA synthase converts CBGA into THCA. CBDA synthase converts CBGA into CBDA, and CBCA synthase converts CBGA into CBCA. Grab a pen, paper, I don't know.
Or listen to it twice.
Or just hear us just keep hitting 15 seconds, rewind 15 seconds. The dominance of one enzyme over the others determines whether a plant expresses itself as a chemotype 1 or THC dominant, chemotype 3 or CBD dominant, or something in between. Plants that carry inactive versions of these syntheses can preserve CBGA, creating chemotype number 4. Chemotype 5 plants, by contrast, have mutations or deletions that result in no cannabinoid synthase activity at all. This means that chemotype expression is not random. It follows Mendelian inheritance patterns, with key loci controlling whether a plant will produce THCA, CBDA, both, or neither. I have no idea what I'm talking about, just so you know. Modern breeding Modern breeding leverages this knowledge to deliberately fix chemotype outcomes, whether the goal is a compliant type 3 CBD hemp or an emerging type 4 CBG variety.
So we've said on the show many a times, we're learning to help others learn. This is good for Mrs. Weedman because she's heard me talk about types before through the grow hour. And we've talked about this. This is pure science. This is pure
science.
Going into where the plant is coming from.
There's some people out there that really know what I'm talking about.
Nerds. Straight up just
they
nerdy.
love this information.
Yeah.
I'm reading.
Yes. And
maybe I'll figure it out later.
And this is for all of you to maybe replay and learn or research if you want to know more. But even if you listen to the first article and this article,
you should be able to make some sense.
This will help you understand when you're reading labels and you hear somebody talking about this, just the basic knowledge of knowing what this plant is for your use is amazing. Okay? So thank you, Ms. Weedman.
Whew. Modern breeding leverages this knowledge to deliberately fix chemotype outcomes, whether the goal is a compliant. So basically, like you're talking about, like your hybrid, your sativa heavy, your indica heavy, which way it leans, if you've got like ratios of CBD, THC.
The type of plant, right.
So they're growing the plants to have these outcomes. They're not like taking a bud of one thing and a bud of another thing and shaking it up and saying, here's your hybrid mix. So it's like GMO processes with vegetables, right? Right? Okay. So maybe I do know a little bit. All right. Modern breeding leverages this knowledge to deliberately fix chemotype outcomes, whether the goal is a compliant type 3 CBD hemp or an emerging type 4 CBG variety. Many commercially grown cultivars fall within legal THC thresholds during much of their flowering cycle. For example, cultivars such as Original Z, when harvested early, typically between day 50 and 56 of flowering, often test under 0.3% THC, despite accumulating moderate to high levels of THCA. These early harvests mean federal hemp compliance. Meet federal hemp compliance. When consumed through combustion or vaporization, the THCA converts into active THC, producing intoxicating effects, yet the product legally remains as hemp at the point of sale. As testing protocols and enforcement evolve, it is important for both producers and consumers to understand what the lab reports are measuring and why acidic and neutral cannabinoids are treated differently under current regulatory definitions. On a side note, through degradation from oxidation over time, THC can slowly convert to delta-9 THC. This creates challenges for enforcement, since a flower that initially tests compliant under the 0.3% limit may later contain higher levels of THC after storage. What is harvested and tested as legal hemp can, with time, drift above the legal threshold during storage, creating regulatory challenges without deliberate manipulation by growers or consumers. So, now you've got a little background. Now let's dig into these 5 different chemotypes of cannabis, starting with chemotype 1, which is THC dominant. Common use is adult use or recreational varieties. A normal ratio is a high THC, low CBD, often a 20-to-1 ratio or higher. This is a classic drug-type cannabis. I thought that was funny to say that.
Yeah, right.
It's the druggie. It's the druggies. They look for this. Cultivars like OG Kush. I guess I'm a druggie. OG Kush, Gelato, Original Z, Lemon Tree, Haze, Skunk One, Sour Diesel, and Blue Dream are examples of plants bred for high THC content with very little CBD. These cultivars remain the backbone of much of modern recreational cannabis culture and set the foundation for today's hybridization practices. Chemotype 2 is a bit more balanced, with a THC to CBD ratio. Common use is medical applications, and the ratio is roughly 1-to-1. And remember, CBD counteracts the psychoactive effects of THC, so it is a really nice, balanced is really great for working and using during the day. These balanced chemotypes are therapeutically versatile and favored by patients seeking the entourage effect. Cultivars like Pennywise, Catatonic, and Stephen Hawking Kush exemplify this category. These plants typically contain both THC and CBD in relatively equal amounts, offering psychoactivity tempered by non-intoxicating effects. Chemotype 3 is CBD dominant. Common use is hemp, wellness products, and low THC flower. The ratio is generally a high CBD, low THC, under 0.3% THC by dry weight. This is hemp as defined by U.S. federal law. These cultivars are bred to express high levels of cannabidiol with minimal THC. Type 3 cultivars are the workhorses of the hemp wellness boom. Foundational examples like Charlotte's Web, AC/DC, and Cherry Wine help establish this category and fueled the explosion of CBD-rich products in the marketplace. Moving on to chemotype number 4, CBG dominant. This is a newer one for many. Common uses are emerging medicinal categories. The ratio is negligible THC and CBD and high CBG. So CBG is also cannabigerol. It's also the mother cannabinoid. Yep.
I just found out today at Flower Expo.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to someone that works in the industry, and she was talking about how much she loves just CBG.
Okay.
Because has very high menopause, like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And she said the only thing that works is straight CBG or high edibles with CBG in it or flower, but she looks for now just CBD tinctures.
Wow.
And she said her sweats have basically gone away.
Oh.
All of her digestive issues and all of her mind issues, inflammation issues, out the door.
Out the door. I need some straight CBG.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, it is the mother cannabinoid, the precursor to THC, CBD, and CBC. Type 4 chemotypes result from selective breeding to prevent the conversion of CBG into downstream cannabinoids, leaving it as the dominant compound. One standout cultivar is the white CBG by Oregon CBD, a stable, high CBG variety with ultra-low THC content. These plants often test below 0.1% THC and are increasingly favored for minor cannabinoid extraction. And finally, we have chemotype 5, null cannabinoid. Common use is your industrial hemp for fiber, grain, and biomass, and it has undetectable cannabinoids. It is just the raw plant void of any beneficial anything. It's just good material. These are hemp plants grown purely for stalk, seed, or hurd. They produce virtually no cannabinoids and are used in textiles, building materials, and food production. With zero cannabinoid expression, these plants are ideal for jurisdictions that impose strict zero-tolerance THC laws. Though devoid of resin, they are essential to the hemp ecosystem and remain the backbone of traditional industrial hemp cultivation. Now, let's talk about minor cannabinoids and the varins. While CBD, THC, and CBG dominate the chemotype framework, a number of minor cannabinoids are reshaping the scientific and commercial conversation around hemp. These include the varin family molecules. You may have heard of this one, THCV, tetrahydrocannabivarin. Cannabivarin.
There you go.
Cannabivarin, found most abundantly in African landrace cultivars such as Durban poison. At low doses, THCV acts as a CB1 receptor antagonist, potentially reducing appetite. At higher doses, it partially mimics THC, showing promise in glycemic control and neuroprotection. CBDV, cannabidivarin, the varin counterpart to CBD, frequently found in Asian or Himalayan hemp varieties. Preclinical research suggests potential roles in epilepsy and other neurological conditions. And we have CBGV, cannabigeravarin,
There you go.
CBGV. A rarer analog occasionally found in type 4 plants. This pharmacology is not yet well understood, but is expected to parallel that of CBG with unique metabolic nuances. Beyond the varins, the other minor cannabinoids play important roles in the broader chemistry story of cannabis. CBC, cannabichromine, a non intoxicating cannabinoid that is often present in small amounts in type 1 and type 3 plants. CBC has been investigated for its anti inflammatory and analgesic properties. Emerging research suggests that CBC may also contribute to neurogenesis and mood regulation, making it a quiet but meaningful component of the entourage
Also
effect.
good for the
Mhm.
brain
Mhm.
and acne.
Ah. Okay. CBN, cannabinol. Unlike most cannabinoids, CBN is not directly produced by enzymatic conversion of CBGA. Instead, it is formed through the oxidative degradation of THC over time. This makes CBN an indicator of aged cannabis. While often present in only trace amounts in fresh flower, CBN is thought to contribute to sedative effects and is being studied for potential applications in sleep regulation and appetite stimulation. For hemp cultivators, CBN illustrates how post harvest chemistry can shift the cannabinoid profile independently of genetics. Moving on to CBCV, CBL, CBT, and others. The cannabis plant produces dozens of rare cannabinoids that appear only in very small concentrations. CBCV mirrors CBC in structure, but with a shortened side chain. All right, well, that's good.
Science.
Yeah. CBL is a degradation product of CBC formed by exposure to light. CBT has been detected in trace levels in some samples, but its pharmacology remains poorly understood. Though individually minor, these compounds collectively enrich the complexity of the plant's resin. The presence of these minor cannabinoids highlights the fact that cannabis is not a singular molecule plant. Instead, it is a chemically diverse system where dozens of compounds interact synergistically. Many of these cannabinoids are pharmacologically active in subtle but potentially important ways, and breeding strategies are beginning to explore how to enhance or stabilize their expression. While most consumers remain focused on THC and CBD levels, researchers and breeders increasingly recognize that the future of hemp lies in the minors. Cultivars optimized for CBC, CBN, or varins could lead to the next wave of hemp derived therapeutics and functional wellness products. So, hemp is no longer defined by how tall it grows or how thick its stalks are. It is now defined by its chemistry. The chemotype classification system provides a foundational framework for organizing cannabis diversity and understanding its future. Whether you're extracting high CBD oil from cherry wine or formulating varin rich tinctures from exotic hybrids, the path to progress starts with knowing what is in your plant. Today's hemp can produce a powerful experience. As laws evolve, breeders will continue working at the intersection of science, compliance, and consumer demand to redefine what hemp can be.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
Very long, these two articles, but hopefully this is some education that you can go back to, because we've done this in other but so far I couldn't even tell you sometimes what episodes we've done.
Yeah. No, I have no idea, but
right.
yeah.
But mark this episode if you have people that don't understand, if you work in the industry, and you know people that are trying to lead them to this episode and have them listen to the first two, to help them understand it. There was one thing that was good in this article too. It says consumer confusion. Many consumers cannot easily distinguish between hemp flower and traditional cannabis. A jar labeled hemp in Tennessee may feel indistinguishably from weed in California, highlighting the gap between chemistry and legal language.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's crazy. I thought that was good too when they threw that in there also. So, but great stuff, Mrs. Weedman. I know, like you said when you were reading, I didn't know what the hell I was talking about, but this is why we do this, right?
Right.
Education. It's very important. So here's another one. I've been getting a lot of questions lately, and I answer them thoroughly. and I do the best of my knowledge, and then
Uh-huh.
I go back and I research again on these kind of questions. Like we just talked about hemp and
Right.
marijuana and stuff like that. Here's another one. We've talked about this on the show before, but someone asked me again, what's the difference between CO2 extraction, hydrocarbon extraction, hash rot? You get these questions all the
Yeah.
time. So to bring this up again in our show, we might have done it before, but also new listeners, they might not have listened to the last 275 episodes, so those, if they're going to listen today, we want them to learn what they're asking questions on. So how to use hydrocarbon gases for cannabis extraction. You've probably seen live resin, shatter, wax, sauce, terms thrown around in the cannabis circles, but what really separates good concentrates from mediocre ones? How do we get those full terpene profiles, maximum potency, clean flavors? One major player, hydrocarbon extraction. What is hydrocarbon extraction? Here's the breakdown. Hydrocarbon extraction uses solvents like butane, propane, or blends of both. These are hydrocarbons, hydrogen plus carbon molecules, which are excellent at dissolving nonpolar compounds in cannabis. Think THC and CBD and terpenes. It differs from CO2 extraction. CO2 extraction uses carbon dioxide under high-pressured, varied conditions. Hydrocarbons use those more volatile gases. The payoff is often stronger aroma retention, more potent concentrates, and more versatile end products. So here's a step-by-step process. And this is how it typically goes. And what's happening behind the scenes now. There's the preparation. Clean and sterilize all gear. Choose high-quality plant material. Conditions the material. Dry it. Size it. Reduce moisture so it works well with the solvents. Extraction and washing. Pass the solvent, butane, propane, over or through the cannabis plant material. The solvent dissolves cannabinoids plus terpenes, leaving behind undesirables. Excuse me. Collection and purification. Solvent plus extract gets collected in a chamber. Filtration to remove particles. Heat temperature control to push off residual solvent back into recovery. Closed loop systems are common so solvents is used safely. Then there's post-processing. Further purification, vacuum purging, maybe reintroduce terpenes if needed. Then there's the decarboxylation if you want psychoactive THC active. The final testing for purity, potency, and safety. There's types of extracts and their characteristics. Depending on how you run the process, what you use, temps, you get different flavors, consistencies, and strengths. Live resin, flash frozen plant material before extraction. Max terpenes, very flavorful. Shatter, translucent, brittle texture, often support potent. THC is pretty up there. You also got wax and butter, more malleable, creamy, easier to handle. Sauce, high terpene full spectrum extracts, HTFSE. Think strong entourage effects, rich full spectrum cannabinoids and terpenes. Smooth experience. So why do people use this? The benefits. Here are the top reasons why hydrocarbon extraction is blowing up in the concentrate world. Higher product quality. You get purer yields with minimal compromise to the plant's compounds. Potency, flavor, aroma, more of what people want. Preservation of compounds, low temperature, less harshness. Terpenes preserves, cannabinoid profile more faithful. Then you get some versatility. Same extraction setup can give you different types. Live resin, wax, shatter, sauce, etc. Scale up or down. There's some cost effectiveness. Lower energy, equipment more affordable in some cases. Quicker thought means more output in less time. Efficiency and high yields. Big yields of cannabinoid terpenes relative to most other methods. Less wastage. Then there's sustainability. Using trim runs, part of the plant's less flashy, like sugar or fan leaves. Gives value rather than waste. Reuse of solvents and closed-loop systems helps. There's some toxic residue, though. If residual solvents, butane, propane, aren't fully purged, they can leave harmful traces. Must have strict quality control testing. Flammability-wise, these gases are volatile. One wrong move and boom! Closed-loop systems are essential. Proper ventilation, gas detection, smoke solvent vapors, PPE, etc. Regulatory compliance. Whatever jurisdiction you're in, there are laws, licensing requirements, safety standards, OSHA, NFPA. You must Follow. Just because something works doesn't mean it's legal everywhere. Training and equipment quality. Skilled operators only, please. Clean, sterile gear, certified systems. Sloppy setups equal dangerous products, both for workers and consumers. Here's some insights and why this matters. Here's why you should care. If you're a consumer, knowing how your concentrate was made tells you about quality, flavor, potency, but equally safety. If you're in production or thinking about it, extraction methods choice affects your product lineup, cost, regulatory risk. The market is pushing for more transparency. People want to know what was used, how it was processed, and whether it was clean. Ultimately, extraction methods like this can shape the experience. How you feel, how pure or harsh it tastes. I've talked about this on the show multiple times of why I don't do propane or butane or any hydrocarbon until Wolfman changed my mind. And he's taught hash lessons and on our show, on the Grow Hour. And I always taste the butane. And his was the first I didn't taste the butane.
Mm-hmm.
It was amazing. And he swears by it because of the flavor. And we had Nick on too from early on in the Grow Hour. And him and I had an argument after the show between fresh press versus butane, and he swore by his. I'm like, I don't believe it, because everything I taste, I can't stand. And but Wolfman changed my mind. So here's the final wrap it up. Hydrocarbon extraction is powerful. It gives us great flavor and aroma, high potency yield, versatile outputs, resin, shatter, wax, etc. But it's not get rich quick or do anything method. You got to respect it. Follow safety, invest in proper equipment, test everything, and stay legal. If you're smoking shatter or dabbing sauce, think about what went into it, not just for the hit, but for your health and your vibe. Hope that helped and understand how and why hydrocarbon extraction. Keep your knowledge sharp, stay elevated, and have fun exploring, Mrs. Weedman.
That's right.
All right. It's been going on for like a week now about weed causes infertility, miscarriages, genetic defects. This has been a bunch of articles came out within this last like 7 to 8 days. So we looked at a few, took some out of a couple. Mrs. Weedman put some shit together for you. So this is miscarriages, genetic defects. Weed may cause this. This article says bull poop. That's the claim. The evidence says otherwise by High Times.
Yep. A new paper in Nature Communications looked at THC around eggs during IVF treatment and saw a small dip in the share of embryos that look chromosomally normal in the lab. A local TV segment turned that into weed causes infertility, miscarriages, and genetic defects. But that's not actually what the study showed. It didn't track pregnancies or babies, and it used leftover immature eggs in petri dishes. Human studies find no slower time to pregnancy, and an IVF cohort found no worse IVF results. If you're trying to conceive or are pregnant, mainstream guidance says to pause cannabis use, per the CDC and the ACOG. While the scary headlines go further than the data. The new paper actually found that clinical records at one IVF center showed that they checked the fluid around eggs for THC leftovers. A small group tested positive. Those patients had a slightly lower rate of embryos that look chromosomally normal at 60% versus 67%. But that's a lab checkpoint, not a pregnancy. The dish experiments on leftover immature eggs, they put unused, not fully mature eggs in dishes with THC and watched. Some lab signals moved in a worrying direction, like more eggs with the wrong number of chromosomes. Okay. And bottom line, this shows a possible lab signal, not proof that cannabis users struggle to get pregnant or have more miscarriages. The TV segment said infertility, miscarriages, genetic defects, while the paper didn't measure any of those. It measured proxies in a lab, like how embryos look under a microscope. Proxies can be useful, but they don't equal real-world outcomes. The fine print from the paper itself, on the other hand, found only a small slice of IVF patients tested THC positive. The percentage of embryos that looked chromosomally normal dipped slightly. The numbers were not solid enough to rule out chance, and they didn't measure dosing, time, or type of cannabis, pregnancy, miscarriage, or live birth results. The authors note University of Toronto fellowship support and funding from the Create Fertility Center. That isn't big pharma, but it is a fertility clinic. So there can be an incentive to counsel toward caution and additional testing. The authors report no competing interests. Either way, replication by independent teams is how we find truth. The remaining evidence says that a large number of pre-pregnancy studies found no slower time to pregnancy for cannabis users. A real-world cohort found no worse IVF outcomes with cannabis use. Some studies raise concerns like low birth weight, but many rely on self-reporting and get tangled up with tobacco, alcohol, stress, and other confounders. Bottom line, the report doesn't prove cannabis causes infertility. It doesn't show higher miscarriage rates. It doesn't show birth defects in babies. And it doesn't report live births or take-home baby rates. However, it raises a biological question that bigger and better studies need to answer. People don't equal petri dishes. Lab results can hint at risk, but real life is messier. Proxies versus outcomes. Lab grades of embryos aren't the same as pregnancies and babies. Confounders are everywhere. THC-positive patients may differ in sleep, stress, tobacco, alcohol, body mass index, and timing. Funding doesn't make research wrong, but it can shape what gets studied and how it's framed. What would actually be better? Big, multi-center, pre-registered human studies that measure how much, how often, and how people use. Tracking what matters, like pregnancies, miscarriages, live birth, newborn health, not just embryo grades. And use of lab stuff like genes, spindles, and chromosome checks as secondary clues and not headlines. And work with independent teams, not only clinic-funded groups. So, if you're in an IVF cycle or pregnant, best practice is to pause your cannabis use until post-pregnancy and breastfeeding. If you're trying to conceive, current human data shows no slower time to pregnancy and no worse IVF outcomes while consuming. But being cautious around key windows like stimulation, retrieval, and transfer would be good. So, best of luck. I know that for many, this is a really challenging journey, and maybe cannabis can get you through part of it, and there may be part of it where you choose not to consume.
There you
But
go.
studies haven't really proved one way or the other if it's good or bad.
No, we need some legit, real research.
Yeah.
Here's something interesting. Smoking marijuana with the water bong doesn't effectively filter compounds from smoke, studies suggest. I'm coming at you with something that might rattle a few bongs out there. This article talks about does filtering weed smoke through water, aka using a bong, actually reduce harmful compounds, or is it just good vibes and smooth hits? Let's unpack a new study that says maybe the filter isn't doing as much as people think. What the study did. Researchers from the University of Wisconsin-Madison and collaborators in Thailand got curious. They went to test whether the water in the bong actually filters out certain harmful compounds in marijuana smoke. So they took 3 popular cannabis strains, bubblegum, silver haze, and hangover OG. They smoked them 2 ways, through a joint, through a bong. Smoke passes through water, joint passes through a filter if you have one or if you filterless. Then they used gas chromatography, mass spectrometry, to analyze the smoke. This tool can detect and identify many airborne compounds by molecular weight, small to mid-sized stuff. They found, and here's where it gets interesting. Smoke combustion nearly identical for both methods when looking at compounds within the detection range of the instrument. That means a lot of chemicals. The ones measurable between 5 and 350 grams per mole showed up in similar amounts whether you used a joint or a bong. Bong water didn't completely remove any of them. There were no compounds detected in joint smoke only, which would have suggested bong water captured those. Nothing conclusive like that came through for those size ranges. One of the compounds that noted was B-cis-carotene, showing up consistently in high quantities. It's not just about what harms you. Some compounds may have beneficial effects, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, etc. Caveats, risk, and what the study didn't cover. As always, nothing's perfect. Here are what the researchers pointed out. This GCMS setup can't detect larger particles, aerosols, metals, etc. Things water might catch, but we're outside of the detachable range. So just because it didn't filter small molecules doesn't mean it doesn't filter some big stuff. Smoke losses during collection, sample size, methodology constraints. All of those usually suspects in scientific studies. That means results are suggestive, not final. Also, the paper was preprint on bioRxiv. That means not peer-reviewed yet. And there's an update stating it was withdrawn temporarily due to some bureaucratic conflict related to where the research was performed. So take it with a grain of salt. Not wrong, but not settled. What this means for you. Here's where we bring it home, all right? Based on this, here's how I see it. If you're using a bong because you believe it significantly detoxifies the smoke or makes it all less harmful stuff go away, might want to recalibrate expectations. It doesn't seem to totally filter out the small, mid-sized compounds we usually think of when we're talking about smoke risk. That said, bongs might still have value in filtering out large particles of aerosols, which this study couldn't measure. Could be less throat irritation, maybe less particle matter. The jury's still out. I love a good bong rip. I like putting ice.
Oh, totally.
I like putting ice in, and you take that, with the cold water, and it just, you don't burn
So
your throat.
smooth.
It's a smooth, nice, clean exhale. And all the pain goes away.
It's the truth.
Yep. That said, bongs might still have value in filtering out particles, aerosols that can be measured. It could be less irritation, maybe less particulate matter. Jury's still out. Also, the flavor, the smoothness. Bongs change the experience. Even if chemically many compounds persist, there's comfort, ritual, smooth draw, cooling, etc. Those qualities are real and count. Knowledge is power. If you're trying to reduce risk, maybe consider alternate consumption methods, vapes, edibles, etc., or ensure your veggies are dry, clean, and combustion is as clean as possible. Some thoughts. So here's my headline. Bong water doesn't seem to be the chemical filter we thought it was, at least not for the smaller compounds they tested. But it might help in other ways we can't yet measure. It's not useless, just not full protection some people believed. If you love your bong, you sleep with your bong, you clean it, you love it, you talk to it. Oh, Billy, 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 I love you, Billy, 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 Billy.
Do I need to know something? You got a bong named Billy, and you love it?
Billy Bong. I love my bong.
Billabong.
An old Caddyshack reference, Mrs. Weedman, when he's talking to his putter. Oh, Billy Baroo. Give me the old Billy Baroo, Mrs. Weedman, off the shelf.
Why do men have the capability to
Oh, Billy, Billy, Billy.
why does your brain get to save stuff like that?
Billy, 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 Billy.
My mom always said, it's like, think of our brains as like a little index card box, and it's files, right? And like, women just have a certain number of files and things like, and the order is one way. And men have a certain number of files and
that
order
goes this way.
But men have this like
This
extra
way.
category,
This way.
and it's like unnecessary information.
It's great.
And they have so much of
good.
it, and
So
you could
good.
just save it, and it just pull it up. So
comes out of
frickin'
nowhere.
random. Like, where do you remember that stuff at?
I've explained this to you many a time.
Like, useless information just
Caddyshack.
disappears.
You know how
from
many
me.
times I've seen the movie Caddyshack in my
I've
life?
seen it a
Not as
friggin'
many as
ton.
me.
I don't know.
Not as many as me.
I don't know.
I
I might challenge you.
I will challenge you.
I don't know how you'd count.
I've probably seen it at least 50 to 60 times.
If it was based on recall of scenes and things that people said, yeah, you win. Because sometimes I can watch a movie 10 times and watch it again like I've never seen it before.
So let me finish this up.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. I love that. And stay curious. More studies are going to dig deep into bongs and can and can't filter. And for you, that means better choices, better hits, maybe less harm. I hope this helps clear up some myths. Let us know. Drop some insight. Make some comments for me. Tell me what you think. All right. One of my favorite journalists, again, I really wish I can write like Reginald Reefer. Yes. I really, really wish I can write like Reginald Reefer. I do. And we've used a ton of his articles, and the invite still stands. If anybody knows this journalist and if he's ever in Chicago, please, I would love to offer you pizza on me, some really good fire weed from the growers I hang out with, and I would love to just get to know you. And I think Mrs. Weedman has heard me enough to say that. But this is a really, really, really good article about young cannabis users. And it's 3 things young cannabis users get wrong about weed. And this is advice from an OG stoner, as in Reginald Reefer. And this is a really good, I mean, a lot of articles we read from him I thought are always really good. But this one here really brings it home for you young users out there that are just starting your cannabis journey. So take a listen. It's a little bit long. Just stay tuned, stay high, and get lit from this article. Tell us about it, Mr. Weedman.
Yeah, and if you choose to just consume the way that you're consuming and it
It's
doesn't
just
go
fine.
along with this article, then just do your thing.
It's just fine.
It's just weed.
Right.
Enjoy it the way you enjoy it. All right, here we go. Cannabis wisdom from 2 decades of cannabis evolution. You good, Mr. Weedman?
I'm good.
All right. After over 20 years of cannabis consumption, I've watched my relationship with the plant evolve through multiple phases, from teenage rebellion to creative catalyst to sophisticated tool for consciousness exploration. Looking back at my early stoner days and observing today's young cannabis enthusiasts, I recognize patterns of misunderstanding that can limit the plant's potential and create unnecessary complications in people's relationships with marijuana. The fundamental error most young stoners make is treating cannabis as a destination rather than a vehicle. They worship the plant instead of using it as a tool. They build their identity around being a stoner rather than integrating cannabis into a broader life purpose. Most critically, they mistake getting high for personal growth, confusing cannabis consumption with consciousness development. This isn't about judging young people's cannabis use or promoting abstinence. It's about sharing hard-earned wisdom that could help new users develop healthier, more sustainable relationships with marijuana from the beginning. Cannabis is an incredible ally when used skillfully, but it can become a limiting factor when approached without understanding, respect, or intentionality. The difference between amateur and experienced cannabis use isn't about tolerance levels or exotic strains. It's about understanding cannabis as one tool among many other, rather than. Yeah, I'm glad I smoked again. It's about understanding cannabis as one tool among many rather than the central organizing principle of your existence. Young stoners often need to learn this through experience, but perhaps some guidance can accelerate the wisdom acquisition process. So he's going to go through his phases of consumption. The early days, cannabis as identity and escape. When I started smoking over 2 decades ago, cannabis culture was different. We'd smoke all day, every day, listening to Sublime, skating everywhere, using weed as a medium to explore creativity and adventure. Cannabis was about getting high and having fun, hanging out with friends, doing creative projects, embarking on spontaneous adventures fueled by marijuana, enhanced curiosity, and social connection. That sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
There was something pure about that approach in pre-smartphone era. You must be like our age, when cannabis sessions created genuine face-to-face community rather than isolated consumption while scrolling through digital distractions. We used weed to enhance real-world experiences rather than escape from them into virtual realities. But even then, many of us made the classic young stoner mistake of organizing our entire identity, around cannabis consumption. Being a stoner became our primary self-definition, rather than being an artist, athlete, student, or entrepreneur who happened to use cannabis. The plant went from enhancing our interests to replacing them entirely. Young stoners today often fall into similar identity traps, but with added complications from social media culture that encourages performance of cannabis consumption rather than authentic exploration. They document their smoking sessions for likes and validation rather than using cannabis for genuine personal development or creative expression. The wake and bake lifestyle that many young enthusiasts embrace might seem like cannabis freedom, but it often becomes cannabis prison, a routine that eliminates the special relationship with altered consciousness that makes cannabis valuable in the first place. When you're always high, you're never really high, and the plant becomes background noise rather than a consciousness shifting ally. This constant consumption approach also prevents young users from developing the natural rhythm of cannabis use that experienced smokers eventually discover. The cycle of consumption, integration, reflection, and conscious re engagement that maximizes the plant's benefits while minimizing tolerance and dependence issues. Next phase, the evolution from recreation to tool. As my relationship with cannabis matured over the years, fundamental shifts occurred in how I approached consumption. Cannabis transformed from a recreational activity into a sophisticated tool for specific purposes: creativity enhancement, stress management, consciousness exploration, social lubrication, and spiritual practice. The most significant change was developing selectivity about when, where, why, and what I consumed. Instead of smoking whatever was available whenever the opportunity arose, I became intentional about cannabis use, choosing specific strains for particular effects, timing consumption around activities that would benefit from enhancement, and maintaining periods of abstinence to preserve sensitivity and prevent habituation. Quality became more important than quantity. Rather than accepting whatever cannabis was available, I developed preferences for specific terpene profiles, cultivation methods, and effect characteristics. This wasn't cannabis snobbery. It was recognition that different cannabis products it was the recognition that different cannabis produces dramatically different experiences, and optimizing the input improves the output. The relationship became bidirectional rather than one sided. Instead of just consuming cannabis, I began studying the plant, learning about cultivation, understanding cannabinoid interactions, and eventually growing my own medicine. This deeper engagement created appreciation for cannabis as a living ally rather than just a commodity to be consumed. Most importantly, cannabis stopped being the center of activities and became a potential enhancement to activities that were already meaningful. Instead of organizing life around cannabis consumption, I integrated cannabis into a life organized around purpose, relationships, creativity, and growth. This evolution didn't happen overnight. It took years of experimentation, mistakes, tolerance breaks, and conscious reflection to develop a mature relationship with the plant. But the destination was worth the journey. Cannabis as a powerful ally rather than a recreational distraction. Now, next is the sophistication of strain selection. One of the clearest indicators of cannabis maturity is developing sophisticated preferences for specific strains and effects rather than treating all cannabis as interchangeable. Young stoners often approach marijuana with a weed is weed mentality, focusing primarily on THC potency while ignoring the complex interplay of cannabinoids, terpenes, and growing conditions that determine the actual experience. Experienced users learn to read their bodies and minds to understand how different cannabis affects their particular physiology and psychology. Some strains enhance creativity, while others promote relaxation. Some facilitate social interaction, while others support introspection. Some energize, while others sedate. Learning these distinctions allows for intentional consumption that serves specific purposes, rather than random intoxication. The development of refined preferences often leads to quality over quantity approaches that young stoners might initially resist. I'd rather not smoke than consume subpar cannabis that doesn't serve my intentions or meet my standards. It isn't elitism, it's recognition that cannabis consumption should enhance life rather than just providing temporary escape from it. This sophistication naturally leads many experienced users toward cultivation, either growing their own plants or developing relationships with growers who share their commitment to quality and intentionality. When you understand what good cannabis can do, you become motivated to ensure access to good cannabis rather than settling for whatever is available in commercial markets. The journey from any weed will do to I want specific effects from particular strains grown in certain ways represents maturation in cannabis relationships that young users can accelerate by paying attention to how different cannabis affects them, rather than just seeking maximum intoxication. And then he moves on to using cannabis as a tool, not a master. The most crucial lesson experienced cannabis users learn is treating the plant as a tool rather than a master. Cannabis serves human purposes rather than humans serving cannabis consumption. This represents a fundamental shift in relationship that determines whether cannabis enhances life or becomes a limiting factor. When cannabis functions as a tool, consumption becomes intentional rather than habitual. You use cannabis to achieve specific outcomes, enhanced creativity for artists, projects, relaxation after stressful periods, social lubrication for gatherings, consciousness exploration for personal growth. The plant serves your goals rather than becoming the goal itself. Tool based cannabis use naturally includes periods of abstinence when the tool isn't needed or when maintaining sensitivity requires breaks from consumption. These tolerance breaks aren't deprivation, they're strategic choices that preserve cannabis's effectiveness while preventing habituation that reduces the plant's benefits. Young stoners often resist the idea of cannabis breaks because they've organized their social lives and daily routines around consumption. But experienced users understand that occasional abstinence enhances the cannabis experience while providing opportunities to pursue activities that don't benefit from altered consciousness. The tool relationship also includes willingness to modify consumption patterns based on life circumstances, goals, and responsibilities. Sometimes more cannabis serves your purposes, sometimes less, and sometimes none at all. Flexibility in the relationship indicates maturity rather than rigidity that sacrifices life goals for consumption preferences. Most importantly, the tool perspective maintains cannabis as one resource among many rather than the primary resource for managing consciousness, stress, creativity, or social interaction. Experienced users develop multiple tools for consciousness work, like meditation, exercise, breath work, therapy, education, with cannabis serving as one valuable option rather than the only option. And he passes on his wisdom of integration. Perhaps the most sophisticated aspect of mature cannabis use involves integration, the process of translating insights and experiences from altered states into improvements in ordinary consciousness and daily life. Young stoners often treat cannabis sessions as separate from real life rather than opportunities for growth that can enhance all aspects of existence. Integration requires conscious reflection on cannabis experiences rather than just enjoying them and moving on. What insights emerged during your session? What patterns became visible? What creative ideas arose? What emotional material surfaced? Taking time to process and apply these discoveries transforms cannabis from entertainment into education. The integration process also includes developing practices that maintain access to cannabis inspired insights during sober periods. This might involve journaling, artistic expression, meditation, or other activities that help anchor elevated states and perspectives in ordinary consciousness. Experienced users learn to approach cannabis as a teacher rather than just a good time. They ask questions during sessions, paying attention to the plant's effects on their consciousness, and treat altered states as opportunities for learning rather than just feeling good. This teacher relationship creates accountability in cannabis use that prevents many of the problems young stoners encounter. Whether you're learning from the plant rather than just using it, consumption naturally becomes more intentional, moderate, and integrated with personal development goals. So, the bottom line, respect the plant, but live your life. After 2 decades of cannabis evolution, the most important lesson I can share with a young stoner is cannabis is an incredible ally when treated with respect and used skillfully, but it becomes a limiting factor when worshipped or used unconsciously. Remember that the goal isn't to become a better stoner, it's to become a better human who happens to use cannabis wisely. The plant can teach you about consciousness, creativity, empathy, and presence, but only if you approach it as a student rather than just a consumer. Cannabis has been my ally for over 20 years because I learned to use it as a tool rather than worshiping it as a master. Respect the plant, but live your life. Cannabis is awesome, just don't worship it.
That was a banger.
Yeah.
That was a
Good.
banger.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff.
Good advice.
Yeah.
Good advice.
Political, state, and business news. Kentucky's medical marijuana game is about to level up. Dispensaries should have products ready for patients by next month, according to top state cannabis regulators. 2 of the 16 cultivators are ready for operating, and shelves may be open in Beaver Dam first. With over 19,000 patient certifications already approved, initial supply might be tight and prices higher. Always is in the beginning.
Always.
Ann Arbor City Council is moving to ease rules so marijuana dispensaries near schools can stay open. Cool. The Midwest's biggest weed fest, Legacy Cup, goes down September 27th at Surly Field in Minneapolis. When Minnesota's first event licensed adult use sales are legit this year, which they are. Enjoy Killer Mike, Warren G, Afroman, Ganja Games, vendor booths, live art, and awards. General admission is $25 if you grab early. Bring the vibe, support local growers. California and Connecticut states chillin' with recreational weed laws are now arresting people for running illegal cannabis shops. From April to June of 2025, California nabbed 93 folks for unlicensed growing and selling. These ghost dispensaries don't get regulated testing, taxes, or oversight. Risk public health and hurting in the legal market. Law ain't just about locking up. Some make legal access fair instead of always reaching for the cuffs. In Michigan, Exclusive Brands is arguing workers can't unionize because cannabis is still illegal federally. They filed with the NLRB, claiming federal prohibition strips cannabis workers of labor protection under the NLRA. Observers say it's a big reversal since the NLRB decisions have recognized cannabis employees' rights. With labor laws hanging in the balance, the case could shake the industry. Oklahoma's medical marijuana biz caught up with foreign nationals, many Chinese using fraud and straw owners to dodge residency rules. Law enforcement say 45 folks have already been arrested for immigration violations tied to illegal grows. They testify this week in Congress. The state once had 1,400 licensed ops, now only 5,000 remaining, with 2,000 cultivators flooded with market and oversight issues. If cannabis reform wants to win, the spotlight's got to stay on the medical cannabis, not just tax cuts or banking loopholes. Putting patients first, build more weight, bipartisan support, and policy momentum. Reform lost direction chasing financial perks. If patients who are carrying this fight, without them, reform loses its compass. Let's get real. Let's get medicine. Let's get that win. West Virginia farmers are mad. Strict rules forcing them to burn product because test shows THC above 0.3%. Regulators following USDA limits, but growers say it's killing profit. In Preston County, one farmer lost hundreds of dollars. Farmers want clearer THC thresholds, less waste. If we want hemp to thrive, regs got to make some sense. Minnesota just flipped the switch. Adult use cannabis sales are live. Congratulations, Minnesota.
Wow.
Only took you 2 years from the vote. State licensed dispensaries opened last week. Legacy Cannabis in Duluth is first. Vero Growth says they're about to save quality products and said before now, you had to hit tribal lands for recreational cannabis. Not anymore. Finally giving Minnesotians more access. State law, new vibe. Maryland's appellate court just ruled psychoactive hemp stuff like Delta 8 and Delta 10 THC have always been illegal in the state. Hemp companies tried suing, saying laws are unconstitutional, but the court said nope. Regulations banning those were legit. So if you're selling or buying those hemp-derived buzz products in Maryland, heads up, they ain't legal. Alabama's got a hearing underway. Poor Alabama.
Yeah.
Oh my God, we've been
Still
talking.
doing suppositories.
Not even yet. They
They
still don't even have it. That's what I'm
They've just
saying.
been talking about it for
Ready?
this long.
Alabama's got
Come
hearings
on.
underway to settle the medical cannabis licensing mess. Companies denied licensing and say their selection process was shady. Still, they're saying it. Disputes, lawsuits, and questions about how Alabama medical cannabis commissions picked winners are delaying medicine getting to patients. Their butts. Regulators are under pressure to fix that fast. What? This has been going
What's
on.
fast?
It's been
Tell
going
me,
on since
what's fast?
2021. Time to
Jeez.
get transparency and justice in the process. I feel bad for you,
Time.
Alabama. Roll Tide. Ohio's cannabis market just crossed $3 billion in total legal sales, combining medical since 2019 and recreational since August of 2024. Damn. Medical sales are leading the pack with $2.2 billion, while recreation sits around $785 million. Average price per gram, about $6.55. Registered patients, almost 460,000. Dispensaries open, 165. States is lit right now, and the growth is real. Now I'm turning it over to you, Mrs. Weedman, with some political, state, and business news. Tell us what you got.
Yep. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is eyeing executive action to ban or heavily regulate intoxicating hemp products over safety fears, especially for kids. Legislature hasn't moved fast enough, so he might do it unilaterally. Industry insiders are split: protect consumers or risk hurting hemp businesses. So stay tuned. This can shape Illinois' bud scene big time.
The bud scene.
In the first 2 months of Virginia's new seed-to-sale tracking system via Metric, we're seeing serious data. 17,786 plants harvested, nearly $30 million in medical cannabis sales, and over 256,000 transactions. Flower dominates with 47%, concentrates at 32%, edibles at 15%, shake and trim at 5%. Transparency's up. Patients and regulators both win. Senator Tom Tillis from North Carolina says Congress has got to step up, regulate marijuana, explore its efficacy for PTSD and pain, and get serious about rules around potency. He argues federal policy is lagging while states legalize and chaos grows. Will Tillis push a framework that treats cannabis more like alcohol or tobacco? We'll see. Edibles brands just went full THC with edibles.com, shipping hemp-derived THC products in 30 states after a successful pilot in Texas. Same-day delivery is live in Atlanta, Austin, Charlotte, Miami, and Nashville. Wellness vibes with compliance. This market is expanding fast. Rand Paul from Kentucky is sounding the alarm, saying hemp could be banned in the next 2 weeks as the debate has swung hard on the prohibitionist side. Lawmakers may rewrite the 2018 Farm Bill rules so any amount of THC in hemp is illegal. Paul wants rules to focus on consumables, not the plant, to protect farmers and avoid killing the industry. Wow. The Buckbee brothers are doing the ultimate juggle, owning businesses straddling both regulated cannabis and hemp industries in Illinois. They're navigating dual licenses, different legal frameworks, and shifting markets. 1 minute you're dealing with tight cannabis regs, next you're in hemp land with loose rules, at least until they tighten. Vermont is revamping its medical cannabis program. Numbers tanked once recreational shops opened. Starting in July, those shops can get a medical use endorsement so they can serve registered patients tax-free, higher potency, with delivery and curbside pickup. The goal? Keep medical access real for the folks who need it. Republican lawmakers. I'm out of breath.
Yeah, a lot of news.
Yeah, Republican lawmakers propose Wisconsin hemp-derived THC ban. GOP lawmakers introduce legislation to close the legal loophole, allowing sales of hemp-derived THC products in Wisconsin. That's bad. Arizona's weed game is blazing. Cannabis businesses there are topping the charts with insane valuations. With only 169 dispensary licenses statewide, dual use medical and recreational licenses, booming demand, and steep profits, operators are shelling out over $10 million for a single license. Investors are flocking. If you're buying or selling in Arizona, you know the game has changed. In Utah, a survey of over 200 medical cannabis patients showed why many still use unregulated weed. Legal stuff is pricey, and folks with chronic pain or PTSD have tight budgets often. So, what helps? Accurate info. Using the state website leads people towards safe, licensed products. Texas Governor Greg Abbott just issued an executive order banning hemp-derived THC products for anyone under 21, with strict ID checks, stronger testing, tougher labeling, and record keeping. Retailers risk losing licenses if they don't comply. He's telling agencies to enforce now while still keeping adult access legal. Kentucky's cornbread hemp brand just sued Tennessee, yep, the whole state, over upcoming hemp regs launching in January of 2024, saying the state's new 3-tier system is discriminatory. They argue it hammers out-of-state businesses and messes with interstate commerce. Tennessee says tiers equal safety and regulation. Cornbread hemp says that's just code for protectionism. There's a legal battle heating up. Sarah Carter, Trump's pick for drug czar, told the Senate that they're still weighing all options of rescheduling marijuana, scheduling at a less restrictive slot under the Controlled Substances Act. She called the issue bipartisan, leaning hard on letting research and data guide what comes next. So we'll see where that leads. Back to you, Mr. Weedman.
Thank you. With some more political state and business news. Steve Creech, 21, allegedly attacked an Arby's employee with a rock in
nice.
Kettering after accusing her of stealing his blunt, his roach.
Over weed?
Yeah, over weed.
What's wrong with that
The
guy?
victim was left bleeding and traumatized. Stevie faces felonious assault charges. A dude, Garen Rankin, 26, is charged with menacing. The things escalated fast over a roach. Must have been a wild night. Delaware is loosening up. The state now lets cannabis business license holders transfer their permits between its 3 counties. That means your business is stuck in restrictive Sussex. You might bounce to Kent. Newcastle Commissioner Sanderland says it's about flexibility, requests from licensees, and balancing regulations with opportunity. Big win for the folks that are trying to make these licenses actually usable. Colorado just fined and banned the makers of Midnight Drops, 1906 brand, a cannabis sleep aid tied to liver damage. They knew since 2020 people were getting hurt, but kept selling. The settlement was $400,000 fine plus cease operations in Colorado. Oof. Violated, and another $600,000 could drop. Product pulled, trust shaken.
Wow.
California Governor Gavin Newsom just signed an AB 564 rolling back the 25% excise tax hike on legal cannabis starting October 1st. The tax dropped from 19% back down to 15% and stays there through at least 2028. The move aims to save legal shops, keep prices fair, and beat back the untaxed black market. All about fairness. A GOP congressman said, yep, marijuana law is a trace of racism, but claims reform folks have gone too far with criminal justice changes. He supports fixes, but thinks some of the proposals overshoot. Talking sentencing, record expungements, etc. The debate heating up. How much reform is enough, and what does it break from justice into chaos? A GOP congressman said, read that. Veterans Group Last Prisoner Project and Balanced Veterans Network launched a campaign to push Republican lawmakers to support cannabis reform. They'll spotlight vets jailed for weed and advocates so service-related trauma can be treated using medical cannabis. It's about freedom, fairness, and giving vets real options and respect, not cages. To everyone out there, respect your veterans and join the fight. Cannabis policy is getting a glow-up thanks to data. Greenstead says clean, reliable reports from states, stuff on licensing, taxes, social equity, and supply are helping lawmakers build smart, fair systems. Without that info, markets suffer. Oversupply, overpriced buds, unfair access. Data equals power for policies that actually work and keep the industry real. And that is political state and business news, everybody. Mm-hmm. Now, Mrs. Weedman is going to tell us, let me ask you a question.
Go
Okay.
for it. Yep.
Are you loyal to the brand or the product?
Mm-mm.
You're a smart shopper. You yell at me
I'm
because I'm a brand person. I'm not a
I'm a
product
product
shopper.
I'm a little bit of both. I don't shop for a brand just because the brand. I don't just trust that the brand is always going to be perfect. And I'm always willing to try a new product. So
Right.
I like new products. I like to explore. I like to try new things. Um, and if a product is touting that it's healthy and clean and doing all these good things, I want to give it a try. But I probably I have like brands that I prefer.
Yeah, and I stick to brands for a long time until maybe I don't like the new style that brand might have brought out,
Hmm.
and then I'll move on. Like if you look my sneaker selection over the last 25 years,
Yeah.
I wore Nike for a very long time,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And then I went to Adidas for
Yeah.
a very long time. And their last couple pairs of shoes I wore did not fit my feet right anymore, and now I'm at New Balance.
Yeah. You were at like Under Armour.
Just for working
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Never wore them out of the house. That
Right.
was just for working out at the gym. So, but those 3 shoes have been my shoes for
Your go-to.
for the last 30 years, maybe. Yeah, 30 years. Yeah. And I haven't worn Nike in a long time. And I still like the Adidas that I still have. Oh, I threw Converse in there every once in a while too, but my consistent where I went the 3, when it came to sneakers. And it's weird how I like my brands, not really so much products. I stick with something for a long time. I don't know. Weird. So tell us about it, Ms. Weedman.
Yep. In most consumer packaged goods industries, brands drive decisions. Shoppers walk into a store looking for Coca-Cola, Nike, or Tide. And if those brands aren't available, many will leave without buying. Cannabis retail tells a different story. Here, product loyalty can often outweigh brand loyalty, and the distinction is shaping the way dispensaries and producers compete. While some cannabis companies, have made headway in building a recognizable brand, many consumers are not yet loyal to logos, color palettes, or celebrity endorsements. Instead, they remain loyal to products, the form, effect, and prices that meet their needs. Recent cannabis consumer survey data from the Brightfield Group, published in the newly released Q3 edition of MJ Biz Fact Book, shows that many consumers are willing to switch brands if their preferred option is unavailable, while only a small minority see all cannabis brands as interchangeable. A vape cartridge shopper might prefer a certain brand, but if it's not in stock, they'll usually choose another cartridge rather than leaving empty-handed. Within those categories, branding may play a role, but it is rarely the deciding factor. That makes cannabis products loyalty more powerful than brand loyalty in shaping baskets at checkout. Branding is still developing as a purchase driver in the cannabis industry, said Kate Stevenson, Director of Client Strategy at the Brightfield Group. Most consumers think about the product itself before the brand when making a purchase decision. According to Stevenson, 60% of cannabis consumers agree with the statement, "Cannabis brands don't matter to me. I buy what the product has to offer." Even more, about 80% say they'll choose a similar product from another brand if the one they want is out of stock. Still, Stevenson said, that doesn't mean brands are irrelevant. Only 30% of consumers believe all cannabis brands are pretty much the same. That tells us that people do have preferences, or at least a roster of favorite brands they switch between. The key, she added, is for companies to remain visible and available on shelves. Staying stocked and ensuring products meet consumer needs and preferred formats is essential for capturing attention in a market that's still a relatively young category. Green Dot Labs has focused its cannabis business in markets where branding is both permitted and central to consumer choice. The Boulder, Colorado-based company has built its reputation in states such as Colorado and now Arizona, which allow consumer packaged good companies to market directly to shoppers. We've intentionally focused on operating in free market territories like Colorado and Arizona, where true competition can thrive and where branding is not just allowed, but essential to connecting with discerning consumers, said Alana Malone, co-founder and CEO of Green Dot Labs. Malone said the company has avoided markets that restrict branding, including Canada,
Mm-hmm.
Connecticut, and Florida, because such rules prevent companies from showcasing the breadth of their product offerings. She added that over time, Green Dot Labs has built consumer trust around its quality standards, regardless of how brand focused individual markets might be. Green Dot Labs has carved out a niche in cannabis by catering to premium consumers, a segment that Malone says is often underserved. While many cannabis markets are dominated by bulk grade flower and mid tier products, she argues that discerning buyers are looking for higher standards. Serving this segment of the cannabis community isn't for the faint of heart, but it is what we came here to do, and we've been tireless in our pursuit to maintain relevance and connection with this audience, Malone said. She noted that the company's branding helps bring in new customers with design, navigation, and storytelling, but she emphasized that lasting loyalty depends on the quality of the product itself, not just flashy packaging. For retailers, the product distinction matters. If shoppers are more loyal to products than brands, dispensaries gain leverage in steering purchases through promotions, product placement, and pricing. Stocking the right mix of formats like flower, pre-rolls, edibles, beverages, vapes becomes more important than catering to any single brand. Retailers that can anticipate consumer intent and meet it with reliable inventory are more likely to win repeat business. For brands, the challenge is different. Standing out in an environment where consumers care more about effects and formats than logos means building trust over time. That might come through consistency and potency and quality, innovative new products, or aligning with consumer values such as sustainability or local production. Companies that succeed in carving out brand loyalty are often those that pair strong product delivery with storytelling that resonates beyond the shelf. At the end of the day, it's dealing with people, said Chicago born and bred musician, entrepreneur, actor, and philanthropist Vic Menza. Dealing with people and creating things, that's difficult. That requires a lot of tact, he said. The balance between brand and product loyalty is likely to evolve as the industry matures. Just as craft beer eventually built both strong product categories and recognizable brand identities, cannabis may move in the same direction. For now, though, product loyalty dominates the retail floor. Consumers are buying experiences, not just names, and retailers who recognize this dynamic will be best positioned to guide the next phase of cannabis retail growth, where product and brand loyalty merge. As markets stabilize, brands will have more room to invest in marketing, packaging, and engagement. Differentiated experiences will begin to shape how shoppers choose not only what product to buy, but which brand to trust. Over time, this could shift cannabis retail closer to traditional consumer industries, where product categories anchor decisions, but strong brands command premium shelf space and long-term consumer allegiance.
There you go.
There you go. Interesting stuff.
Yep. International news, tariffs from India just doubled from 25% to 50%, and that's spicing up the price of pre-rolls. Most components come from India, Indonesia, and China, so bigger tariffs equal supply chain chaos. Expect longer lead times, higher costs, maybe even skimpier flower quality. Pre-roll brands are scrambling to stockpile and shift suppliers. Bottom line, your next joint might cost a little more. For the first time ever, UNESCO Monte Cult Conference will spotlight cannabis in its cultural policy agenda, marking 100 years since the international prohibition. Civil society groups like FAT, F-A-A-T, and the Cannabis Embassy will argue that cannabis culture, heritage, and traditional practices deserve recognition globally. This isn't just about weed. It's a big step toward reframing how the world views the plant. The Haudenosaunee Confederacy says the cannabis in 6 nations is exploiting vulnerable people and disrespecting culture. They oppose the industry's expansion, raising serious oversight issues with the local cannabis commission created by the 6 nations elected brand admin. They say it's eroding cultural values and putting profit over people. The Chiefs Council wants sovereignty and tradition preserved. A new international study across 20 countries show when medical marijuana sales go live, tobacco and amphetamines use drops. That suggests
tobacco even?
That suggests folks might be substituting cannabis in place of riskier stuff. Also, MC markets grow fast post-legalization. Average increases 26 tones a year, and legalized countries will regulated systems and easy access, healthier outcomes. Europe's green wave is gaining momentum. Countries like Slovenia are holding referendums and for medical personal use. Switzerland is pushing for full adult use legalization by 2026. Czechia is also drafting laws to legalize personal cultivation, possession, and more. If you're keeping score, more EU nations are lining up to flip the legal switch. Growers in Canada want cannabis farm tours to become a new wine tasting. Pictures, scenic fields, strain education, maybe even farm gate sales. But regs aren't quite there yet. Licensing, strict consumption rules, and provincial laws are slowing the rollout. Still, optimism is high, could be a major win for cannabis tourism and small farms. New analysis says if the NHS in the UK expands access to medical cannabis, it could unlock $13.3 billion in economic value over 10 years. Chronic illness strains, workforce. Legal cannabis might help thousands return to work, slash hospital visits by 28%, and ease NHS pressure. Public wants this. Now it's about time to make it real and fair. Canada's cannabis sales in July creeped up just 1% from June to $485 million. Pretty sluggish. Year-over-year growth was only 1.4%. Some provinces like Quebec and Alberta saw mild gains. BC dropped. Some reasons. More stores are failing. Flower prices are helping, but the fireworks are missing. Can higher growth return? We'll see. Inside CM Green in Bangkok, cannabis has gone prescription only since June of 2025, and things got surreal. Bartenders are now training doctors on terpenes. Tourists drool at the jars, only to get slapped with prescription requirements. Sam Green sacrificed 30% of revenue to stay legit, pulling unapproved edibles, hiring physicians, obeying rules. Trust Not Just Green now keeps the dispensary alive. It's international news, everybody.
Pretty good, Mr. Weedman.
And let's close it out with Mrs. Weedman right here. She's going to tell you a little bit when cannabis brands blur into youth culture, regulators notice. Lessons from the tobacco's past. Tell us about it, Mrs. Weedman. Remember when we were growing up? Well, maybe not. I didn't grow up in the 60s, 50s, and 60s when TV first came out. Especially in the 60s, there were cigarette commercials. We didn't have cigarette commercials. We might have just caught the end of it. We might have caught, I think they were banned.
We had Virginia Slims and the Marlboro Man.
Yes, but they were ended. I think they were done by the 70s, weren't they?
Or by the end of the 70s?
Because magazines, you still saw plenty of advertisement for tobacco companies.
And billboards.
Billboards, yeah. Now you don't see any of it.
No.
So growing up, we were still living in that world where your mom would give you a buck to go to the corner store to pick up a pack of Cools.
With a handwritten note.
No, I didn't even need that. Yeah. Just for my mom, And so cigarettes smoking has changed a lot. So tell us about this, Ms. Weedman.
All right. Cannabis is meant to be enjoyed for adults, but when products start looking like candy or cartoons, the line gets blurry. Tobacco's history shows that even the appearance of marketing to kids can trigger harsh regulations. If cannabis wants a sustainable future, it has to prove it can draw that line for itself. Cannabis has always been fun. It's part of what makes it powerful, what makes it stick in culture. But fun becomes a problem when it starts creeping into the territory of kid-friendly. This is the line in the industry that needs to be paid attention to, now more than ever. History has already shown that what happens when that line gets crossed, Big Tobacco learned it the hard way. Even the appearance of marketing to children is enough to trigger a backlash that can reshape an entire industry. How about, remember Camel Joe?
Yep.
Joe Camel, right? Once upon a time, tobacco companies leaned hard into youth culture. Joe Camel, candy cigarettes, neon packaging, and bubblegum-flavored smokes were all part of the playbook. By the early 1990s, research showed that 6-year-olds recognized Joe Camel almost as easily as Mickey Mouse.
Wow.
Camel's share among underage smokers soared. The public's response was swift. By 1998, the Master Settlement Agreement banned cartoons and tobacco ads, restricted sponsorship, and wiped Joe Camel off the map. The lesson was clear. Once the public believes you are targeting kids, you do not just lose credibility, you lose control over your own marketing future.
Yep.
Cannabis candy problem. Today, echoes of that playbook are showing up again. In 2023, the FTC and the FDA issued joint warning letters after finding THC edibles packaged to mimic Skittles, Oreos, Nerd Ropes, Doritos, and Cheetos. Regulators deemed the practice reckless and illegal, since children could easily mistake these products for ordinary snacks. In California, a 2025 state audit found that more than half of the reviewed cannabis products had packaging likely attractive to children. Designs included colorful fonts, cartoon mascots, and labels that mimicked cereal and cookies. These incidents are not about strangers handing out weed candy on Halloween. That myth has been debunked year after year. The real risk, one that does occur from time to time, is more ordinary. A toddler at home finding a bag of gummies that actually looks like treats that they already know and love. Flavors, fonts, lifestyle crossovers, packaging is just part of the story. Visit a legal dispensary and you will see products with candy-like flavors and bright, playful labels. As Columbia University epidemiologist Catherine Keyes noted, if you go through a cannabis dispensary right now, it's almost absurd how youth-oriented a lot of the packaging and products are. On the other hand, the lifestyle layer adds another wrinkle. Some cannabis brands have leaned into culture so thoroughly that their logos appear on streetwear, music videos, and even kids' clothing lines. Whatever the intent, the optics are tricky. When children wear cannabis-branded merch, even innocently, it normalizes adult practices in youth culture. On social media, the risks multiply. A 2022 study of dispensary posts found that 6% featured cartoon characters like SpongeBob, Rick and Morty, while more than a third advertised steep discounts. These are old marketing tricks recycled from alcohol and tobacco, and for a reason, they still work. In the U.S., states are already tightening their grip. Colorado banned edibles shaped like animals or fruit and requires a universal THC symbol on every piece of candy. New York's cannabis regulations forbid packaging or ads designed in any way to appeal to children. California has barred cartoons, neon fonts, and fruit imagery on labels. At the federal level, agencies are also stepping in. The FTC and the FDA crackdown on copycat edibles showed regulators do not need cannabis to be federally legal to act. And in Congress, the issue is already in debate. In 2025, Senate leaders cited hemp-derived gummies marketed like Oreos and cereals as justification for closing the intoxicating hemp loophole. Senator Mitch McConnell called it deceptive and predatory marketing toward children. If cannabis continues down this path, federal legalization could arrive paired with harsh restrictions, plain packaging mandates, advertising bans modeled on tobacco, or a blanket prohibition on flavor. As things stand, the industry risks trading creativity for a regulatory straitjacket. The situation may seem dire, but let's remember, cannabis is not big tobacco. It does not need to be. Nevertheless, perception is powerful. If the industry does not draw a clear line between adult fun and kid-friendly branding, others will draw it for us. The choice is simple. Either the industry proves it can self-regulate, or Congress and regulators will do so with a heavy hand. Cannabis has a chance to rewrite a different story, a responsible story, one that keeps products creative and culture-rich without turning them into candy-colored billboards for kids. That is how the industry earns trust, protects its future, and avoids being treated like the enemy it never wanted to be.
Good article.
Yeah.
Hit some good key points there.
Mm-hmm.
So, good stuff, Mrs. Weedman. You had some long ones today, some bangers.
I did some big reading today.
You feel better?
Ah.
Well, got anything else to say before we go?
Everybody have a fantastic week. I can't talk anymore.
Hey, everybody out there in the world, we love you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for Dutchess to throw into the cause. We appreciate you. Good weed. Liked it. Got me
Yeah.
nice and stony baloney. Love you.
Stony baloney.
So thank you, Ren and Dutchess and the Dutchess Cannabis team. We appreciate you all out there. Thank you again, everybody out there. We love you. Like Paulie always says, smoke smart. Puff, puffing away.
Puff, puff, pass.
Check out our cannabis lifestyle brand online at 8decades.com. Our custom smokes and accessories are perfect for your coffee table, bedroom nightstand, or kitchen counter. They're designed for you to show them off. The Canna community is also loving our hemp and cotton blend t-shirts, sweatshirts, scarves, and hats, finished off with our 8 Decades logo. We've got some awesome long-lasting goods that will be your favorite for years to come. 8 Decades, because a 9th decade of cannabis prohibition isn't acceptable.